Welcome to Humane Voices, the official podcast of the Humane Society of the United States. I am Kelly, and we recently returned from Animal Care Expo, which is the largest international educational conference and trade show for animal welfare professionals and volunteers, brought to you by the Humane Society of the United States. We spoke with so many amazing people at Expo, and we thought that you would enjoy some of the short interviews with a few animal shelter folks that we met with, just to hear what's happening in their communities, in your communities, potentially. We also asked some fun, silly questions I think you're going to like as well. Stick around after these short interviews and listen to my interview with actor and comedian Hal Sparks, who did some hilarious stand-up for the several thousand attendees at Animal Care Expo this year. First up, here's Brittany Tennant from the Cheyenne, Wyoming Animal Shelter. Fun fact that the Cheyenne Animal Shelter is the largest in the state of Wyoming. I spoke with her at Animal Care Expo, and she talked about some of the challenges that they are finding in Wyoming. She also was a really good sport and answered a pretty fun question at the end I think you'll enjoy. Okay, we're at Animal Care Expo, and I am here with Brittany from the Cheyenne Animal Shelter. Tell us about some challenges your shelter's facing in Wyoming.
Oh, Wyoming, like a lot of rural animal shelters, we have challenges just being sort of isolated. We're a bit of a resource desert. So some of the particular challenges we're having, of course, are demands for more care than we can provide. So we have lots of community members who need veterinary services, and we don't have either the veterinarians or the financial means to support those. Where we are doing well, though, is in our population management and our adoption. So unlike a lot of places in the country right now, we are fortunate to be moving animals through still pretty quickly at our animal shelter. So there's still a lot of good things to celebrate there, too.
All right, tell me a big win in Wyoming. Give me one of your favorite animal shelter memories.
Oh, great. Okay, that's... I feel like I'm very on the spot now, and I should tell a pet story, but I'm not. I'm going to tell a policy story because I love policy. Yeah. Late last year, our city council made moves to take a community cat program off of the books and remove it from city code, which would have made efforts like TNR, return to field, illegal in our city limits. And we were actually able to fight for and advocate for those programming and not only keep them in the city code, but make them actually better and enhance protections for community cats in our city. So I feel like that was a big win.
That's a big win. Congrats.
Thank you.
Okay, couple rapid fire questions.
Okay,
ready?
Yeah.
What's the weirdest animal that has ever come into the shelter?
I'm going to go with an 8-foot-long monitor lizard.
Hello.
Yeah.
In Wyoming.
Yeah, there were two actually. They were left in a tub in an abandoned house.
Did you adopt out the lizard?
We sent them to a reptile rescue.
Okay,
yeah.
all right, that's good.
Before my time, though, they seized at one point 10 highly venomous snakes, including mamba snakes from a house in Cheyenne.
Wyoming.
Mm-hmm. Wyoming. It's Wild West.
Yeah. I live in Ohio. None of that there. What's the strangest thing that's happened in your shelter?
Oh, I guess one thing that comes to mind is we had a injured raccoon bring herself to the animal shelter this summer, so that was kind of interesting and fun.
Come in.
She was perched on a fence in a dog enclosure right outside our back doors. Yeah, and she had some serious injuries and needed some help and had escorted herself to the back door, basically.
As a raccoon will do.
Yes.
As a raccoon will do. All right, final question. This is really serious.
Uh-huh.
This could represent the great state of Wyoming.
Oh, Lord.
Who is sexier, Lenny Kravitz or a cat lounging across a windowsill in the sun? What's sexier?
Oh, definitely the cat. No question. Yeah.
Exactly.
One of those makes me want to reach out and touch it immediately. And it's definitely not Lenny.
All right, Brittany, thank you for all you do.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being on Humane Voices.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Next up is Sydney Mullentine, who is the president and CEO of the Humane Society of Greater Kansas City. We start off with some silly stuff, but she also lets us know their challenges they're dealing with in Kansas City.
What's the weirdest animal that's ever come into your shelter?
Oh, man. A Mongol duck that was owned by somebody.
Can you explain what that is?
It's a duck. It's a big duck, and they have quite the attitude. And someone found it walking down the street, and we said, okay, well, we'll just keep it on a stray hold, I guess. And then an owner came in. It was an owned family pet that lived in the house.
So happy ending.
Happy ending, but it was very bizarre. It was very bizarre.
Let's try some word association. How about that? I'm going to say an animal, and you say the first word that comes into your mind.
Okay.
Yeah? Let's go with cat.
Naughty.
Guinea pig.
Sweet.
Turtle.
Is that a word? Slow.
Sloth.
Slower.
Last one, shark.
No, thank you.
What are some challenging issues that are facing shelters right now? Not just your shelter, but everywhere.
I think one of the biggest issues that we're seeing right now is the number of unaltered pets in our communities is just growing at an exponential rate. And with the vet shortage, we're having a really hard time keeping up with the numbers of unaltered animals. That's one of the biggest issues we're seeing in our city, as well as the economy is making it a lot harder for people to be able to afford elective procedures or even preventative medicine for their pets. So there are a lot of pets that are going without the care that they need simply because people cannot afford it.
You mentioned one thing in that, the vet shortage. That's a thing too, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's being felt everywhere. We're lucky that we have 5 doctors on our team, but we're one of the few that doesn't have an issue right now. Every place is feeling just this void of being able to get doctors in and being able to provide medical care to animals.
So the unaltered pets thing and the vet shortage, how are we going to solve this thing? How are we trying to solve it?
I think it's a multifaceted approach, and I think we have to look outside of the box at other areas that we can help the community, providing resources to them and being able to keep pets in the homes with those resources. So we have animals that are getting sick because their parents can't afford the care, and then they're trying to surrender to a shelter. So are there grants that we can utilize that will offset that cost so we can get your pet treated and you can keep your pet and keep them in their home instead of coming into the shelter? So we're looking at other avenues instead of just focusing solely on we have a vet shortage. What else can we do in our community to help the pets that doesn't involve bringing in a doctor that we just don't have the resources for right now?
Fantastic. Sydney, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And here's Christine Brugge from the Charleston Animal Society.
What's the strangest animal you've seen come into a shelter?
Oh, gosh. We had I even forget what kind of breed it was. It was a special kind of sheep that looked more like a goat. It was like a Barbados sheep or something like that. So that was pretty strange. And of course, you get everything from iguanas and parakeets. And we had a pigeon a couple weeks ago, domestic pigeon. So that was a little strange.
What kind of problems are you trying to solve right now at your facility?
You know, I think education is a big one. We do a really cool humane education program with kids. Teaching compassion to kids is a really nice one. And just trying to keep pets in homes, just trying to help as much as we can keep pets in homes rather than having them come into the shelter.
So if you could talk to your community, people who might not know you're there, how do you want to talk to them? What do you want to say?
I would say, a lot of people do know that we're there, but a lot of people don't know all the things that we do. So we have a ton of programs. We do low-cost spay and neuter. We work with transports. We help shelters. We do No Kill South Carolina. We're working with other shelters in the state. We have a TNR program. We've got a cat sanctuary. We're starting to work on rehabilitating dogs. We do just about everything.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you.
Here's Caitlin Birdie from the MSPCA on Cape Cod.
What's the strangest animal that's come into your shelter?
It's a good one. We have had a couple of stray reptiles, so like a stray bearded dragon, a stray snake that were eventually reclaimed, but just found out on a random street on Cape Cod, which is not typical.
And they found their homes?
They did, yeah.
What's the challenge right now with sheltering, and what are we trying to solve?
So for me, I started off working in the shelter with adoptions and surrenders and now work in community outreach, which is amazing and a really needed program. I think the hard part is just making sure everybody buys in that community outreach is a good thing and that we can stop pets from coming into the shelter in the first place just by making sure people have access to what they need to continue caring for their pets.
So if you could reach out to members of your community, maybe who don't know you're there, what would you say to them?
I think I would say that we believe having a pet is a right and everybody deserves that companionship. So we're here to problem solve through whatever problem somebody's having. And to people who we need to sort of buy into supporting the idea of community outreach, it keeps pets out of shelters, which I think everybody wants. And I think a lot of people can relate to how important the companionship of their pet is. So just realizing everybody has that same feeling no matter their circumstances.
My colleague wrote this one. It's a little weird. Who is sexier, Lenny Kravitz or a cat lounging across the windowsill in the sun?
Cat. Every time.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And lastly, we spoke with Angel Rodriguez, an animal control officer from Green Forest Animal Control in Green Forest, Arkansas. Our producer does some fun word association with him, but then during a more serious question, we hear how passionate Angel is about caring for animals.
All right, word association. There's no wrong answers here, but I'm going to throw out some things like cat.
Finicky.
All right, that's great. Guinea pig.
Adorable.
Adorable. That's great. How about a turtle?
Beautiful little babies.
Wow.
I love animals. I just love them.
How about a shark?
Sharp teeth. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine. And we'll end it with a sloth.
Slow,
Yeah.
but makes it to its destination, I guess.
So, all right, let's go with a little more serious stuff. What's the challenge that you're facing right now with animal control, with maybe your shelter? And maybe it's stuff that a lot of these people here at Expo are facing with their communities.
Lack of people, of volunteers or people that are into animals as the people that are working with me. I mean, I need more. I need assistance. There's only one of me. I work every day, seven days a week. So it's the lack of people interested in the work that we're doing. There's not enough of us.
And it sounds like it's a little overwhelming for you. How do you deal with that?
Just do the work. I focus on my babies.
And who are your babies? Explain.
All the animals that I come into contact, especially the ones that I care for in my shelter.
It sounds like you have some compassion. I'm seeing you're dealing with some stuff. This is great. I love that you love the animals so much, and you're calling them your babies. That's amazing.
Yeah, they're under my care. I try my best to do my job the best that I can. So like that, at the end of the day, I go home feeling like I kind of did something, and sometimes it doesn't feel like it. Like I feel derrotado. That's in Spanish is like drained or broken, because sometimes I want to get my animals adopted, and most of the time it doesn't happen. There's no adoption. There's not enough adoptions going on, which it matters to me, and I just don't have enough time in the day or people to walk my dogs, socialize them. I try to at least have 5 minutes a day, but there's always either a call or an animal sick or an animal bite or an investigation or I have to clean them. It's always something.
Well, you sound like you're an amazing guy, and it sounds like I hope you keep doing what you're doing because it sounds like your community needs you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much, Angel.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
I'm here to serve them.
It is always great to hear from our animal shelter community from around the country. Okay, here's my interview with comedian Hal Sparks. He's one of my favorites, and I'm not going to lie, I fangirled a little bit because I was a dedicated, absolute absolutely obsessed with Queer as Folk, which of course he was a star in, Michael. So stick around for the end of the chat where fellow Queer as Folk fans, you're going to enjoy a few of the deep dive questions I asked Hal about his experience on that groundbreaking show. It was really great to talk to Hal and appreciated the opportunity.
Mine's recording. I don't know about you. Check. Hello.
All right, Hal.
Hi.
Great set that you did
Thank
at
you.
Expo. We are here in San Antonio, so it's good to have you on here. A few questions for you. So you have an extensive resume.
It's true.
What project do people most recognize you from?
Well, I am uniquely in a position where there's not one single thing, but I can tell by the crowd of people who are approaching me what their thing may be in general most of the time. So if it's a bunch of stoners, it's Dude, Where's My Car? If it's or VH1, if it's around Pride Month and everybody's screaming, it's Queer as Folk. And if they're in the general age of 19 to 24, it's Lab Rats.
Okay.
Which, I chose while I loved doing the show and it was super fun and the jokes were organic and there was no downside to it whatsoever. I originally chose to do the project in a completely mercenary fashion because at one point I was on a red carpet with Brad and Angelina. They were two people ahead of me. It was very fancy.
Angelina?
Yeah,
Nice.
back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah. And when I was on Talk Soup, it was like right after Talk Soup, and I was interviewing some people and blah, blah, blah. But they were a couple down. And it was, obviously, when they stepped out of their car, it was this huge noise. And then about 5 minutes later, this kid steps out of a car who's probably 14 years old. I had no idea who they were. Mm-hmm. And the crowd noise tripled, like totally dwarfing the response that Brad and Angelina had gotten. And it was some rando Disney kid. And I was like, there might be something to this whole programming thing for children. It might be a good place to go grow an audience from scratch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell me this. You've worked with the Humane Society of the United States for a long time.
Yeah.
Is there a particular issue that we have that speaks to you?
Beyond the kind of the broader one, which is adoption and fostering and all that kind of stuff, I have worked for years with Wild Horse Ranch Rescue in Phoenix, in Arizona, and they save wild horses and police and military horses. They're going to be slaughtered or sold to awful people.
So you work with Kim?
Yes.
At Wild Horse?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have been a supporter of hers and theirs for decades now.
That's great.
And, I think everybody that's involved with Humane Society, everybody that's involved in this has their primary sort of their entry into it is through pets or whatever, because that's our personal experience. Most people have one.
It's the gateway drug.
That's right, exactly. But then you often will find within it a secondary cause that moves you,
right,
that you can dedicate yourself to, that you never really, it never may have occurred to you until you heard about it, whether it's polar bears or dolphin safe tuna or whatever you know what I mean? There's a bunch of variances where, the Prop 2, for example, for like treating farm animals well and stuff. If you're gonna, eat them for food, at least they should, live with dignity and not be, caged in pens and all that kind of stuff. I obviously did the benefit for that with Ellen and everybody, and we raised a bunch of money, and it actually went through, and it's a law now, and I feel very proud of the fact that we did that.
Yeah, that's great.
So that I think the wild horses would be, a big part of it, because it's actually a great example of a non-indigenous animal, because they're not from here. Horses are not from here at all. They're Spanish and Arabian when they came over on boats and then spread throughout the world. And now we brought them here. We brought those animals here. We put them, we have them running around the hills. Yeah. And therefore we have a special, I think, responsibility
to care for them. Exactly. Yep. So you have no horses, but you have 5, is it? 2
5
rescues,
cats.
2 ferals, and 1 foster feral. Yep.
That's right.
Tell me about your cats.
Well, Maddie and Murphy are my girlfriend. When she had 2 cats, they were both from the same litter, and they aged out, and they both went away at the same time. So she wanted to replace them with 2, fosters that were a brother and sister. And
Yeah.
we've missed by a little bit. One's a year older than the other, but they're both long hairs and they're very sweet. And one's very noisy and wakes us up every morning and just will not shut up. And the other one is just the sweetest kind of lap cat you've ever seen and is just always nuzzling. It's just super sweet. And then Molly is still skittish. She's the one who was injured. She's got half a tail. She's pure white. When we got her, she used to feed her outside the door. And then when we moved away from the house, we left instructions with the person who bought the house and said, hey, can you take care of this cat? It comes back. And she's got 2 little long hairs that she hangs out with. We don't know what happened to them, where they went. But she calls us up at one point and she's like, that white cat, she's a mess. She's in the backyard. So we brought over a trap kit and got her.
Yep.
Got her, had her tail half amputated and took care of her, whatever. But she was covered in ticks. And there are no ticks in Vegas to speak of. I don't know what happened to her during the time, where she went. Somebody picked her up and she came all the way back. We don't know. But it was an adventure, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And the poor thing. So we were picking ticks off of her for days. And then now she's just gorgeous. She's just got her fur.
Tick-free, looking good.
Yeah, looking good.
Little
Prissy tail.
TLC.
Yeah, right. And, and she's still, she I don't know what happened to her, but it's one of those things, and I'm sure animal folks know this well, but she only will hang around when she can't see your legs. So if you get in bed, she'll jump right up on the bed and she'll come up and she'll want pets and she'll stay very close. Right. If she sees you walking, you're a whole different being and she doesn't recognize you. And so she's still skittish about that.
So if you're vulnerable, kind of laying down or,
Yeah, or maybe somebody kicked her or something awful. That's what I think. And so she's just skittish about that. So we're trying bit by bit. She'll get there because
for sure.
Chip and Chud's my my original old cat. She's on her last leg.
How old?
Bless her heart. We don't know because I don't know how old she was when I coaxed her into the house. She's somewhere between 12 and 60, at this point.
Pick a number.
Yeah, exactly.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
But she was, the first time I brought her into the house, she hid in the closet, because I closed the door behind her so she couldn't leave the house.
Skittish.
She ran into a closet and just howled. And then I finally let her out. And then the next day she kind of walked in and she was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Now she's just a house cat. She's just a lazy house cat like she always was. Beautiful.
I'm a cat owner, so I love cats too. So you seem to know a lot about cats.
Yeah.
Cat people are better than dog people, right?
Yeah, of course, because
exactly.
Yeah, dogs are slaves, and people use them as guard dogs, and they use them to, in some cases, if you live in an action film like I do, go get a beer for you out of the fridge and bring it to you or something like that. But the unconditional love of a dog is the poor man's respect.
It's a lazy person's game.
It is.
It's a lazy
you can get
person's
a cat
game.
To do that?
Exactly.
Okay. So Chip, with his broken butt and everything, the foster fail, is a big cat. He's the meatiest cat we have now. He's fat, but he's also he's a tank. And part of it is because he just ate, and he's very active, but he just ate to recover from the fact that he was wasting away, essentially. So I don't know if you saw the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino movie. There was a dog in the movie named Brandy, and Brad Pitt's character trains it not to, because he's a stuntman, and so it's a trained dog in case he needs to, have it for stuff. If it whines while he's making food, he'll stop feeding it and stuff. So it sits there, and it's very sweet. The whole exchange between the two of them, where he's like, "Is that a whine? I don't want to start all over again. I will throw this out. I'm not even kidding." And the dog's like, "Huh?" He's like, "All right." And he keeps fixing him the food. And he trains it so that when he's done, he makes the food, and then he makes his own food, and then he goes over and sits in his chair, and he goes, and the dog goes and eats. And I won't, if you get a chance to see the movie, I won't ruin for you what the dog also does when he goes. So I trained Chip.
Yeah.
That's the food noise. So that he knows when to eat, and so he doesn't get fat and all that kind of stuff, but also so that he knows when there's a treat that's going to happen versus just following me around trying to get one. So I have him trained, and if I go, I go into the kitchen, he won't just follow me around, but if I go into the kitchen, he comes running, and I give him a churro, or I give him food,
Trained
a snack
cat.
or something. Yeah. And in that, I think there is that kind of trained respect that you can have, but it's different than their just soft interaction.
All right, so I'm going to pivot a little bit.
Other than that, I have no opinion.
Yeah, none at all.
Right.
Hal Sparks has no opinion.
Nope.
Listeners. All right, I'm going to pivot to Queer as Folk because full disclosure, it was one of my favorite shows.
Oh, right on.
I've seen it start to finish 4 or 5 times maybe.
Nice. It's always good to meet someone who's seen me naked before I even knew their name.
And often.
Yeah.
Often, particularly when you were dating the doctor.
Right.
So that was obviously game-changing for so many people, for the movement, queer community. What was your favorite thing about playing Michael Novotny?
I think that he just appeared in the script. There was no other way emotionally to play him that was just right there on the page. Some characters you wrestle from the page. And that I gave him some affectations. Like I specifically in reading him, I made up some stuff. Specifically, I made up a piece of backstory that I kept with me the whole time. And I also, the way he eats, like kind of using his spoon as a shovel almost. Okay, that comes from a friend of my dad's, an actor named Dennis, who lived in our house for a little while he was doing pump boys and dinettes downtown in Chicago. And he was a grown man who ate with his spoon like that. And I remember being a teenager going, was the guy a toddler? What the hell? But I was like, that's unique, and I want to use that as
but true to his character because he was childlike in some ways.
Yes,
in the most
growth.
Beautiful way, of course.
It was also the hardest part, though, too, because he never saw pain coming. And so I had to, emotionally back up and then get punched in the stomach again, and then again, and then again. And there was no guard. Every other character on the show had a bit of a guard. They were expecting problems. Michael could never expect it. So any dramatic or sad thing, if we had to reshoot it, it had to be fresh.
Yeah.
It had to be a fresh wound all the time. I had panic attacks after the second season because of how it affected my nervous system.
So you mentioned you were able to bring things to the character and to the script. Here's something I don't recall Queer as Folk ever brought. So here's my criticism, Hal. Animals. Where were the animals? Where were the animals in Queer as Folk?
That's a Canadian thing.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Animals
you
on
could go back and redo it. You would have introduced animals, right?
Animals, yes. Animals on the set are always, an extra order of magnitude of difficulty.
That explains it. All right. So speaking of animals in Queer as Folk, and this is just kind of lightning round here for Queer as Folk listener friends. All right. I'm going to name a character, and you tell me if they were an animal, which animal would they be?
Sure.
And I'm going to start with Michael Novotny, your character.
Oh, clearly a new puppy.
So, yes. Michael's mom, Debbie, what animal would she be?
She'd be a big, cat that purrs but swats at you.
Yes.
She's a swatting
in a
Persian.
Loving way.
Big, fluffy cat or whatever that it just randomly swats at your hand. You're like, hey, what are you doing? Yeah.
All right. Ted.
Ted, an old dog, an old like a pound dog.
Tired old dog.
Yeah, pound dog, just eyebrows are rolling.
Yes.
You see those dogs that are. I have right now. There's a dog that's looking to be adopted in Philadelphia, and when I was there doing the Sexy Liberal Comedy Tour, I walked by this dog in the window of this little shelter / adoption place or whatever, and it was sitting there every day, and it was giving me the eyebrows every time I walked by, and I was like, I want to take a dog home, but I can't because I have 5 cats. But that would be Ted.
Okay, Emmett.
Your first kind of feeling is like maybe a big, labradoodle and fluffy and very prissy and whatever. But in reality, I think on a genuinely emotional level, it's much closer to like a lab, like a dog that would like pull you out of a fire.
Yes, and loving.
Yeah,
obviously
loving dog, but definitely more of a work, like a dog that surprises you with its bravery.
All right, last but never least, because I loved this character too, Brian.
Snake, just a big boa constrictor, just somebody like only the people that have snakes like them, and it's just big.
A snake.
And you're like, the snake got out again.
It's probably on the nose. That does, yeah.
Python, one of those,
yes.
Burmese.
Yes. Well, I'm going to end on this, that we want you to keep doing all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Most importantly, though, is, of course, being a voice for animals.
Yeah.
We need more of you doing that.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate you being here. I appreciate your time on the podcast.
Love it.
Thank you so much, Hal
My
Sparks.
pleasure. Thank you.
All right, Humane Voices listeners, that is a wrap. Thank you for joining us for this episode. We look forward to continuing to meet with you wherever you get your podcasts from.